Hey Addicts, welcome back. We're here for episode 4 of Arifureta, and this is going to be a short video. Yeah, because there isn't much that happens in the episode, which is actually, I think, a positive thing in this episode, because we only get 2 things, and that is the final boss for the first labyrinth, and then also a brief look at the hero party once again. So I think that's good because it has been going super fast in like the first 3 episodes, and in this episode it finally slows down. I think is able to, I don't know, build like the scenario a little bit better. I don't know,
build some tension. Yeah,
build some tension, you know, make it a little bit more gripping. So I thought that was an improvement. Again, like we've said this, I don't want to keep sounding like a broken record or mention it every video, but, you know, there is some things that make it a little off to watch because of, like, their choice in some, like, production things. But overall, I think, like, you know, what they decided to include in the fight, how it reflects to what happens in the book, I think that is overall better in this episode, too. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that they put in a lot more effort in, like, screenwriting as far as dedicating 3 or 4 scenes, or, you know, 15 minutes to the main fight in the book and in the first volume. There are some, so as a common theme, there's going to be a bunch of CGI in this fight, which, you know, that's what's going to happen. The creature's cool looking, at least the drawing's pretty cool.
I think I don't know, it could just be, maybe it's just me finally getting my optimism back, and so I'm, you know, saying things more positively. But I think the CGI in this, it's still off. I wouldn't say it's great in the scheme of things, but overall I think it's better CGI use than what we've seen in the other episodes. Like, for instance, like in the first episode, that big monster that, you know, is the whole cause for, like, Hajime being, you know, falling in a crater in the first place. That one looks really off. This one still has a little bit of that, but I think it overall has a little bit better quality to it.
Yeah. Yeah, the only things that continue to plague the series are weird music choices.
And the music was a little off.
Like, there's...
Like, I like the beats. I like the beats and everything, but I just don't know if that fit there.
Yeah. The first jazz number was a little weird. Yeah. The second one was like, okay, I guess it's a little bit better. And then the sound effects are like hit or miss when it comes to certain things.
I will say the only thing that we've had in the other episodes that I think we didn't have in this one, or at least it didn't catch my eye, maybe it was because I was distracted at some points, but no weird dialogue in this one that I recall. At least not when they're in the fighting the Maverick. The hero party, though, I guess we should mention them because, again, it's like one of those things where they're trying to put in, like, little drops, little subtleties there. I don't necessarily know if it's really well executed subtlety, but I think it's enough. I think at this point, you know, they shouldn't, like, I'm glad that they're, like, touching back with them at least every episode, but, you know, I don't know, like, some of the, I think what I'm trying to say is that I think it's the perfect amount that they're showing at this point, but I think what they're focusing on in those scenes is still a bit off, because you still see some, like, flashbacks, you still see some, like, present day scenes that don't really matter ultimately, you know, because, like, I would have loved to seen some of those play out if they would have done, you know, the more traditional approach, but some of them just don't feel right because of how they decide to execute the beginning of the story. But overall, like I said, I think I appreciate, like, the length and, like, the continuous factor of showing them.
Yeah.
Do you have the same stance on that, or are you a little bit different?
I don't know. It's kind of hard. This episode, I guess, in some ways, is more balanced because you get to see the teacher complain to the Pope about stuff.
Yeah, his church just like, I'm not forcing anybody to fight. It's like, oh yeah, you technically are.
Okay, folks. Anyway, so I mean, that was good to see, and I guess the scene where it's like, oh, I still regret that he fell. It's like, okay.
Yeah. You did have, like, Kalki being Kalki, just being like, we shouldn't mourn the lost, guys. We'll use it as a striving forward stepping stone. And everybody's like, you frickin' dumbass.
He's got some optimism
Yeah.
to continue to have.
Probably the biggest optimism I've seen in a series. Blind optimism.
But yeah, so this is a traditional anime / any light novel ever, where it's 2-stage boss. So the first stage is pretty cool, and then the second stage is pretty devastating, I would say. Throughout the interactions between the two characters are pretty decent. Again, like the only thing, and the actual magic that they drew throughout the whole episode was pretty good. Mm-hmm. It did get a little repetitive with the colored orbs, but it is what it is.
Yeah. And there's it's really hard, I think, sometimes. Maybe it's just because of some of the other factors of this show in particular. But I thought one of the things that would always be hard for a show version of this is because a lot of the fights are from a distance, which, because you and maybe some of the other party members later on, they have magic, and Hajime for the most part has a lot of throwable items. He's got his guns, so he's staying at a distance as well. They do balance that a layer on that we'll see, probably in the next episode with, more of a hand-to-hand approach. But I think it is kind of hard in a show format to really build an interesting, engaging scene when everybody's at a distance. They do bring it in close a couple times in this episode, but I don't know. I think you're going to be more on the edge of your seat when it's hand-to-hand fighting. I feel like in a show format. In a book, I think it works great. Because they're painting the picture, and I think, it just works out differently. I don't know if that's technically just how the show is executing it, or if that's just a concept that's just hard to execute in general. But there is parts of the fight that I like, but it's just not quite there for me.
Yeah, I mean, I also feel which maybe they'll adjust it later, but it also feels like he's shooting pea shooters and not actual guns sometimes.
Yeah, well, and also it's really hard, I think, with CGI to really show penetration of bullets and stuff. You look at it, it's it just looks like somebody stuck their finger in mud. I can't really tell that that's a gunshot. You know?
I think if they had better sound design, it would help a little bit. But there is one moment where it's a default sound effect, and it's that in between the transitioning PowerPoint slides that gets me every time. Yeah,
I think that's probably at the core of it. Why some of it just doesn't feel as hype building or really over the top cool, just because of some of those choices. But overall, I think like you said, the way they decided to pace out the scene, extend it a little bit, I think that really helps it be better than some of the previous episodes. I don't know if what would you say? Do you like this episode more than the last episode, or do you still like the last episode more? Because I think it's just between those two episodes. The rest of it beforehand,
it's a little shaky.
Yeah.
I don't know. This one, it doesn't really have. I guess it has some character development. Because I guess they get closer because they almost they have some problems in there.
Yeah. For sure.
But I think the last episode was more relatable, and I don't know. But I think it's you have to have one episode where it's just the whole fight. You have another series reviewing Don Machi for the War Games, where it's oh, this whole episode's gonna be fighting.
Yeah, or at least that's what I feel like those things should be.
Yeah. So for one of those kinds of episodes, I think it was good. I think I just prefer the previous one just because of the content and conversations.
Yeah, that'd be the same for me. I think they're pretty much on the same level. I think it's just that the last episode had scenes from the book that I more enjoyed. So, I mean, that's not to say I don't think the final boss in the book is amazing, because it is. It's just I just find the whole flower thing so great. But as far as that, it does look well, I guess technically they could do whatever, but I would assume that we will get a new character introduced into the next episode, and that will open up the world a bit more. Gonna start seeing the main, I guess, quest really come into full effect in that one.
Get new weapons as well.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of change cosmetically for the characters. They're going to get a lot of cool stuff, so I'm really looking forward to that probably most, just because, man, all their stuff that he gets is really cool. I'm just curious how long they're going to spend on that, because the way it's really described, everything so far has been so fast-paced, and they kind of breezed over it, so I don't know if even the audience members know exactly what all he can do, or what his power level really is. So that is something that hopefully they'll touch on in the next episode.
Yeah, I think that was the one thing in this fight they didn't do well is he didn't execute a lot of his skills that you've seen previously.
Yeah. Well, and that's probably one of my only other gripes too is that like not so much that it's like that he gets stronger in the middle of the fight. And they don't really, I don't know, because like in the book, I think it happens similarly to what they did for the show. It's just like in the book, they're able to kind of explain more about that. Because I actually think that's really cool, like in the series, how like, he's able to, even if it's just like a smidgen, he's able to get like stronger in the scenario he's in. So hopefully, like again, in the next episode, when they're like describing everything he gets and like all he can do now, maybe they'll go into a little bit of that. I think the only thing that's different about this is that they were both still conscious when we last saw them in this episode, whereas in the book I think they like, at least Hajime I think passes out, and then it's not till after that. So I'll be interested to see
they get rewards.
The reward, the mightiest of loot boxes is awaiting them. But anyway, guys, I think that's pretty much it for this episode. I did think it was good. It was on par with the last episode. Still needs to improve a bit, but I'm more optimistic now going forward. So hopefully it's keeping up that and maybe even getting better. So this is what I hope. But any final remarks, Michael?
Yeah, if you're still watching, it's not a time to stop yet because it gets better.
Yeah,
new characters that are fun and. There's a chance that it's going to be good.
Yeah, I think once they get all the other characters in, it's going to tie the show together a little bit more. I've heard some people say that they've actually really enjoyed or just at least liked the show without reading the books, so I guess that's a positive thing. Maybe that'll get people into the books, and then they'll be like, oh, wow, this is actually a really cool series that, it opened up the door for them, and maybe they'll create a bigger outcry for people wanting a second season. But I guess that depends because that's really early on to really go into that. But like I said, that's the last of this. We'll shut up and we'll see you guys for the next episode.
5. Bye.
Bye. Peace, addicts.